Okay, so today we're going to be talking about using REST APIs now, similar to last week, but this time we're going to use the inline cloud functions, and let's just see how to do that. So the functionality will roughly be the same. Do stick around till the end because I'm going to ask you for a challenge. I'll let you try out a challenge and just see if you can test your knowledge in how to use REST API. So do stick around to the end. I'll describe what the challenge is. See if you can do it. Okay, but let's get right into this one first. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we are just simply going to copy our code now to our inline editor. Okay, so the code is, if you recall from the video, the last video, it was this code here. Okay, and so I'm just going to copy this. So I'll just copy the code. So, oh, sorry, it should be included here. Okay, so that is the code. Of course, we're going to make some changes to this to match what is required by the inline function, but that should be pretty straightforward. So I'm just going to copy this and go straight into, okay, so I'm going to go right into our fulfillment. Okay, so from here, I am now going to disable this and enable inline functions. Okay, so this should be this. I'm going to enable this one now, and this should contain the inline functions which we did last time. Okay, so from here, what I'm going to do is just create the convert, right? Or I'll just call it currency func, right? Currency func here, and then it's the same thing. It's agent. Then place this code here. So this will be the function, right? And then I'll just paste the whole thing right here. So there it is. Now again, we're going to add the intent, handle the intent. So we already have the intent, if you recall. So we're just going to copy that. So again, the spelling and the case is very important. So just go ahead and I recall we called it convert intent, right? And then I will just replace this thing as currency func. Okay, like so. And that's all there is to that, right? Now you've already set up the currency func here. Okay, so I think I have it already here. Oh, sorry, this thing is not correct. This should be function. Yeah, it should be function. All right, so what are the things that we will have to change here? Number one, okay, the first one here is this request has to be there. Okay, so if you look at package.json, we don't have it. Okay, so here we have to place the dependency. Okay, we have to manually place the dependency. And so how do we do that? So we just have to go back to our code here. Okay, so we just have to look at our package.json, and we have a request here, right? Because we installed that. So we're just gonna, okay, so we have this code here. So let's just copy the request here, right? And then place that right in our package.json as well. So we just go to package.json, put a comma here, make sure the syntax is correct. Then we'll just place the thing there. Okay, so what will happen is once we deploy this request dependency will be installed for us in whatever server this thing is running on. Okay, so that's important. Make sure that is there. And again, you would see some error in the console.log if you fail to put the proper dependency. Okay, you just won't see it working. Okay, so yeah, so that's for that. Okay, so that's the first thing you need to do. Okay, what else do we need to do here? This thing is not exactly right, because if you look at our sample, the way you use it is you actually use this agent.parameters. So we're just going to make this the change accordingly, right? So we basically need to just do this, right? Just change this to agent, because that is the proper syntax for this. And again, class, I recommend you will always console.log everything so that you can see what's going on. So console.log amount. Okay, so we'll just put these things in, all right? And I put even the body here if you want to read all of this stuff. Okay, so that's fine. It looks fine. All right, and so if you recall from the previous practical, right, you see that this thing is just concatenated to this URL, so that it's pretty easy to see. Okay, now, so what else do we need to do here? I think there's one more thing we need to do, and that is to change this res.send, right? And so we don't use this, we actually use something called, if you see the sample here, it's called agent.add, right? And you can even use cards here, you can use quick replies and the like if you want to do all of that stuff. No? So there's samples there, how to use quick replies or cards and the like. Okay, that looks better. Okay, so now the next thing is we need to place an agent.add here. So it should be agent.add, right? And then we can just say here, S, right? Because S is the thing we want the chatbot to display out, right? And that's basically it, right? So this takes a moment to deploy. Okay, so it looks like it's done. It's now blue, and it says deployed. Okay, so let's test this now, right? Please convert. Let's see. Okay, so it didn't work. Okay, it did not work. So let's look at the diagnostic info. What does it say here? Okay, so it says that the execution was successful. If it is not working, let's look at the console now. This cloud console, as you can see here, will allow us to view whatever errors there are. Okay, so it says here. Okay, so it looks like it's good. Looks like it's good, right? So you see here that that it's able to display the things, right? We see that there is a rate. There doesn't seem to be an error. So for some reason, it just didn't show up. Okay, so we have to find out what was the reason for that. But you can see that the data is coming back, right? So this Cloud Console Editor is very helpful, all right? Because this is our only log that we can see what's happening, and you can see a lot of things to make sure that we are getting the info. So everything was being read properly. So what is the error? Okay, so let's just go back to Dialogflow now and see if I did anything wrong here. Okay, so what I think I'm going to do here as part of the error checking is to make sure our S has some value. Okay, so let's just see a console.log S is, and let's just put S here. Again, this is to check, because I'm not sure why did I spell this correctly? It seems to be pretty straightforward. Yep. Okay, so it looks correct. So let me just see whether there's any issue with this. I don't see what the problem is actually. So let's just deploy this again. Okay, but the good news there is it's working. Okay, you saw that the result was retrieved. You see the body did come back. So I think we're 99% there. We're just missing something here. Okay, so it's done. So let's try it again, and hopefully we'll get a bit better clue what's going on. So let's just try this statement again. Okay, so again, nothing was shown up, right? So let's just see in our log. So let's just open this up again. Actually, it's already here, but I just close this thing here. Okay, so let's see. So there's a bunch of stuff here. Let's go. Okay, so it says here 50 SGDs equal to 69. So the thing is correct, in fact. Okay, so it is showing up. Now the question there is, why is it not returning on our fulfillment? I mean on our chatbot. Now that is what I'm trying to find out. Ah, okay. So it seems, class, this code is actually returning before this is a chance to finish. Okay, so I think in the practical, what we use is a different function which will sort of handle this a little bit better. And so let me just use that now. Okay, so instead of request, I'm just going to use this request promise. Let me just modify this. Okay, so this is request. Okay, request promise. So it's a different library, but that's the same thing. Okay, basically what happens here is you can do it in this fashion where you would use this then. This promise will basically, if this thing is done, then this piece of code will trigger. Okay, so somehow this works better. It does not end too fast, meaning it does not end prematurely or does not return prematurely. So let's just use this piece of code. Okay, so I'm just going to add this now. Okay, so I'm just going to make this modification here. So it'll be a request promise, right? And then I will change this to RP. Okay, and then I shall put okay, I think I have to put a dot then here. How does that work? So let us, okay, so basically what the way it works is let me just make some change here, right? So this will be a dot then, right? Okay, then function body, yeah, and then you will basically have that closing brace here. Okay, you'll have a dot then there, and then this will end. So this one will basically will look like that. Yeah, so this thing here will end this particular function. Okay, so it'll be a dot then function body. So body will contain the result, right? And then it will be basically it'll end in this way, no? And then you can change it with a dot catch here. So basically, if there's an error, then it won't go to the dot then; it'll go to dot catch. So this is part of this library. Okay, so you can just use it like so. Then you can just put it like that. Okay, so this one is optional, and then basically console.log error occurred plus error that message. I believe it's called message. Okay. Anyway, it's likely not gonna go here. It'll go here. Okay. So we made a slight change here. So again, we changed the library, you know, so that it will follow this promise, and this works better, it seems, with inline functions. It does not prematurely end. So the next step here is we need to place the reference, right, the dependency in package.json. So let's see if we have it here. Where is the dependency? There. So I'm going to place the dependency here. Just copy that, put it right here. Okay, so obviously we're not going to use this other one, but never mind. Let's just keep it there, and so it is fine. So that's done. Let's see if this will work better. Let's deploy it. Okay, so it's deployed. Let's test it now. Hopefully this will now work. There you go. So now it's working. So you can see the issue was it was working all along. So it seems like it's just this request function doesn't work well with this inline functions. So the thing about this the initial request function, this one here, it works properly. It gets the data, but the function seems to prematurely respond out before the agent.add, before this statement is able to display out. So it's prematurely ending. So all of this worked, but this thing was never executed or didn't execute properly. So the solution, it seems, is that for inline functions, they prefer a type of API call where it uses a promise, meaning it uses this format with a dot then function. So you can see that this request promise is that type of function. There is a dot then, it's a promise. So if you don't know what it is, you can read up on that. That is like a newer style of coding REST APIs. Okay, so the old way, we saw both ways in Heroku and this inline function. So this is something unique with inline function. But you can see that the code is practically 99.9% the same, right? We just changed the library for that. Okay, so I hope you got that work, so you can get that working. So you can see, again, it is up to you if you prefer this coding in the inline editor or in Heroku. You can see the coding is the same, and you will have a choice one way or the other. All right. Now, with regards to the challenge, so let's talk about the challenge now. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to create, what we're going to do is we're going to make a bot. Okay, I'll ask you to make a bot which actually displays a map. Instead of displaying text, it will display out a URL, right? And so we hope that this URL, the URL will be a URL to a map image, and so we hope that Telegram will be able to display that. Okay, so let's just create for that challenge. Let's create the intent now. Okay, so I'm just going to do this very quickly. So let's create the intent, and then I will call this intent show map. Okay. Okay, so that'll be called show map. Then we will have some training phrase here, which is show me a map of Singapore Polytechnic. Okay, so it'll be, what we're going to do is we're going to have any place in Singapore. Okay, so you can talk to the bot. So we're just going to place this as, okay, so for this, we're going to just set it as assist.any because I don't think this will cover, you know, it could be a bunch of things, right? Because this API will be able to handle many types of places. So what we're going to do is we will just set an any here. Then we will just call this thing the place. Okay, let's call it the place. Okay, like that. So it'll be assist.any here. Okay, so let's just add a few more training phrases here. Okay, okay, here. So let me show me a map of Raffles City. Okay, right, press that. So you can put, of course you can train it. Okay, so there. Okay, so again, it's really simple training first, but again we will demonstrate the use of an API for this thing. So obviously for this we will require fulfillment, so let's enable fulfillment here. So we will enable fulfillment for this. Okay, so for the API, so actually this API is called static maps, right? Static maps. Okay, so you can just do a search on static maps in your Google console, right? So it's called Map Static API. Okay, so Google has a ton of all these APIs. This is pretty, I chose this because this is pretty easy to use. So what we're going to do here is, all right, so basically you would be able to enable this. I already enabled this API for my case. However, don't worry, if you have any issues with this API, you can use the link I'm going to be giving you, which is the API link. All right. So whenever you enable an API, a REST API for Google Maps, you will be given usually some credentials here. Okay, so you can see the credentials for whatever you're using, right? So in this case, I'm using Maps API here. Okay, so you can see that I have the key here. Okay, there's the key given for this Maps API, right? Again, if you don't want to set this up, you can use my own Maps API. That's fine. You can use my key if you want to. However, you have the capability as well to build it, to have this, especially if you enabled billing for this. But if you didn't enable it, just use my own API key. That's okay. No, the cost of this is very, very limited. Okay, very effective. I can show that later as well. Okay, so there will be a key given to you. You can do a search on this, all right, and then you can see the credentials. So the credentials will appear here, okay, whenever you use this. Now, you might say, why did I use this? Well, because the images can be displayed by our chatbot. Okay, so how do you use it? No? So you can do a search on this Maps API, the documentation. So for example, you just do a search on static maps. Okay, you do a search on static maps. So you can look at Google Static Maps API. There'll be a documentation on this. And basically they have a sample right here. They have a sample here. So you have to give it the API key as I've shown you. All right. So basically the API is a GET request. You can just place here the place that you want. Now, so we're going to limit ours to Singapore, but this will actually work for worldwide. Okay. So I'm just going to copy this. Okay. So I'm just going to copy this thing here. Let's just paste it here so it's easier to see. Okay. So we're going to test Singapore Polytechnic. Okay. So Singapore Polytechnic, and then it is actually Singapore. Can remove this, right? Singapore. The zoom size is how close the map is, right? Whether it's very far or whether it's very up close. So this one is a bit too far for me. I'm going to place this at 18 so that it's really zoomed in. You can change the size of it as well, and you can change things like the markers as well and the like. Now we need to place the API key, so I'll have the API key right here. Okay, so my API key is, okay, it is right here. Let me just paste that in. And so if I try this out, watch, huh? See, I can get actually Singapore Polytechnic's map.